Hello and welcome back to the Complete Web Dev series. In this chapter we are building a content management system using object-oriented programming and we are getting close to the end here. In this video what we're going to do is we are going to get all the CRUD operations done for articles with the exception of probably the file upload, and we'll do the file upload stuff in the next video, which will hopefully be a little bit of a shorter video. But this shouldn't be too bad, so let's jump right in here. By the way, please comment, like, and subscribe. If you are enjoying this series, let me know. Alright, so what we're going to do here is create a new branch for us to work on, and this is video 32 it appears. So I'm going to do a git checkout -b v32, and then I'll do a git push set upstream, and I'm going to set that to origin v32. Once I've done that, I already have Examp up and running, so make sure you do as well. And then we're going to go to our localhost CMS admin articles, and we are going to work on the CRUD operations of our articles here. And so let's go ahead and dive right into the code. So go ahead and open up your admin controller, and we're going to need a couple of new views. We do have the articles view done right now. Well, we have it started, but we're going to need to create another one. So create a new file, and we'll just call this article singular, and this will be the file to host or to hold view components for the form to add and update our articles. This articles.php is going to be the view to list them out, much like we did with categories, okay? So what we're going to do here is let's just start with the article form, and I guess let's go ahead and work on the view first. And so what we're going to do here is just go ahead and open up PHP tags, and then what we're going to do is say use, well, let's break it down to another line. We'll say use core form helpers, and then we're going to say this start, and then we're actually going to do head instead of content because we're going to add some JavaScript here, and then we're going to skip down a few lines, and we're going to say PHP this end, and so everything that's in this little section right here will go into the head of the HTML and the layout. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start this start, and we're going to start the content, and then we'll skip down a few lines and we will do this end. And let me just double check. For some reason I'm paranoid that I didn't switch over to my screen, but I did. Okay, so now we have the starting of this. Let's just go ahead and get the start of our controller so we don't have any errors. So let's go down to the bottom of the controller here underneath our delete category action. And what I'd like to do is add a public function. Well, actually, you know what? Did we already have an articles? We do have an articles up at top, so let's not do this down here. Let's go ahead and organize this by putting it underneath our articles action right here. We're going to create a public function article action, just like that. And for now, let's just do this view render. All right. And then if we go to admin article and we'll do /new, this is going to be the page. So we don't have any errors. This is loading in correctly, just the way that we want it to. Once we have that, let's continue on with our view here. And let's go ahead and add, let's do an H2. And in here, let's go ahead and echo out this heading. But we don't have that, so we're going to go ahead and add that in the controller real quick. The controller, we need to add a parameter here in the action, and this is going to be ID. And we'll say, we'll do a default of new. And then what we're going to do is right here above our view render, we're going to say this view, and then we're going to add our heading to that. And this is going to be equal to, and we'll do a ternary operator. We're going to say if ID is equal to new, then I want the heading to be add article. Okay. Else I want it to be edit article. All right, so we'll save that and let's go back and refresh, and it should say add article, and there we are. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is go back to our view here, and underneath the heading there, let's do a div with a class of poster. All right, and inside of there, let's add our form, and the form we don't need anything on the action because we're going to post back to the same place. But for our method, we're going to go ahead and do post. And then what we're going to do is for our encode type, our inc type, what we want to do here is because we're going to be doing file uploads, we want to change this to multi-part / form-data. Now you have to do this if you're going to be doing file uploads in your form. Okay, so that's the only reason we're doing that. The next thing that we'll do is, you know that we need to, if it's our form, we need to protect against our cross-site request forgery. So we're going to go ahead and do a PHP echo, and it will do our form helper CSRF field, and that will add that hidden input for our cross-site request forgery. All right, once we have that, let's go ahead and add a row. So we'll do div with a class of row. And in here, we're going to put a bunch of our fields. So the first thing that we want to do is let's do a form helper, and then we'll do an input block. All right. Now this input block is going to, it's going to need a label. So we'll give it a label, title. We'll do title for the name and ID. Then what we're going to do, and why is this giving me a problem here? Anyway, we'll say this article title, and then we're going to do some input attributes, some wrapper attributes, and then at the end we'll pass this errors down into there. So for our input attribute, we'll just give this a class equal to form control, like that. And for our wrapper, let's go ahead and do a class, and we'll do a class of form-group, and we'll do also call medium 8. All right, so now this is going to be a problem. So let's go back and refresh, and we'll have some errors here. And that's because we don't have article and we don't have title. And so let's go ahead and take care of all of that. So go back to the admin controller. And what we need to do is we need to get our article instantiated. So one thing that we can do is let's up here at the top here, let's create an article. And this is going to be equal to, if ID is equal to new, we'll do a ternary operator here, and this is going to be equal to new article. Articles. Okay. Else, this is going to be equal to articles. And then we'll do find first. And then we're going to actually pass in params here. I don't want to make that too long of a line. So above that, we need to set up our params, and that'll be an array. But right now we don't have this articles model, and I don't think we created the model either. And so I think we'll go and do that now. So in the models in your project here, in app control models, go ahead and create a new file. And we'll call this articles.php. And then what we'll do here is give it a namespace of app models. And then we're going to use the core model class because we're going to extend that. And then, you know, we're going to need quite a bit more than that too. So let's go ahead. Well, let's just leave it like that until we need to change it. Let's go ahead and pull in our validators as well. So we'll say core validators. And then let's use, only one we're going to need here is required validator. And then what we'll do is say class articles extends model. All right, and then what we'll do is we're going to add a protected static table property to set the database table, and in our case this is articles. And then we'll add our properties. Now these properties come from, if you go to the articles here, it's these properties across the top here, okay? So created at, updated at, all of those. We're gonna add one property for each of those. So we'll say ID, created at, updated at, user ID, title, body, image, status. Now the status by default is going to be private, okay, and then the category ID is going to be 0 by default. Let me just double check the database, make sure. Yep, category ID. All right, the next thing that we're going to do here is we want to do a couple things. One, we have these timestamps and we want to auto-populate those. So we actually have in the model class, we created a timestamps method. So what we can do is in the public function before save method, now this runs before it saves, we can say this timestamps. Like that. The next thing that we're going to do is our validation. And so for validation, we're going to say this run validation. And we're actually going to have 2 of those. So I'm going to go ahead and set up both of those. And the first one is going to be a new required validator. And that is going to take in this as the first parameter. And then an array with field. And our field for this is going to be title. And then message is going to be title is a required field, just like that. And then the next one is going to be very similar. It'll be new required validator. We'll pass in this and an array. And for the array here, it's going to be the field is going to be body. And the message is going to be body is a required field. All right. Once we've done that, this is probably good for now. We'll come back and add a few more methods possibly to this model as we go. But now that we have a model, excuse me, throat got dry. Then we'll go to the admin controller, and now we can actually import this article. So if we go up to the models, we can just add in our articles into that group right here. And now you can see that this works. So what do we want to do? We want to get the article. In our case right now, it's just going to be the new article, but we're going to be taking care of the update and adding in the same form here. So we're going to add some parameters that we can use here, and those parameters are going to be we want to have conditions, and for the condition here we're going to say, hey, I want the user ID equal to user ID, and we'll say, and you know what, let's do this before. We're going to say ID is equal to ID, and we'll say and user ID is equal to user ID. Next, what we're going to do is for our bind, that's going to be an associative array with ID, and the ID is going to be is going to be the article ID that's passed in, and then the user ID will be this current user ID. Now remember, this on construct, we set up this current user right here, so all of our actions actually have reference to this current user. So we'll do that bind there, and this will be enough to get the ID, to get the article by the ID and user ID. So this will just make sure they have access to edit this. So now we have this article, and what we're going to want to do here is, if we're going to add a little bit of a check here, and let's say at this point, if not article, then what we'd like to do is we're going to do a session message, and we're going to say you do not have permission to edit this article, and then we'll use our router redirect, and we're going to redirect them to the admin articles page. Alright, so now that we have the article and we redirect them if they don't have permission to edit it, we're going to do a this view article is equal to article. This will pass that down to the view, and then what we're going to do is say this view errors is equal to article. Man, I can't type a C today. Article get errors, and then let's see, what else do we need there? For now, that should solve our issues that we have. So let's go back and refresh, and here we go. So that's looking pretty good. We want to go ahead and add some more fields here. So the first field that we're going to add right here after our title is, let's see, let's add the status. Okay, so go back to the article view, and right below here, let's add a new form helper, and next we're going to use the select block, and we're going to give this a label of status, and then a title and ID of status with lowercase here, and then we'll say the value is this article status, which will be, by default, that'll be private. Man, I can't spell article today, or I just can't type it. I know how it's spelled, but that doesn't help me. And then what we're going to do is we're going to give it some attributes to pass down, and then we'll pass in this errors. Okay. So what do we need here? We need we want this to be, if you go back to the view here, this takes up 8 of the column width, and we want to have this one fill up the rest of the remainder here. Or actually, no, we're going to do 2 more fields there. So what we're going to do is we're going to give this a class equal to form control. All right, and then we're going to give the wrapper a class equal to form group, and call medium 2. We'll save that. The other thing that we needed here, and I messed that up, is we need our status options, and they go in after the value here. So we'll say this status options. So that's going to be an error by default because it won't have any. So that'll be a problem. So let's go ahead now and add those. So go back now to the admin controller, And what we're going to do is at the top of that controller. Ooh, let's see, how do we do this? All right, so what we're going to do is let's do right here, let's do our categories. And we're just going to do find equal to categories find. And we're going to find these. Let's go ahead and pass in as a parameter order, and we're going to order these by name. All right, so that will get all of our categories. And then what we're going to say is we'll call it cat options, and by default there's going to be an array here, and this will be 0. So 0 will be uncategorized. And then what we'll do is right here, we're going to pass this view category options is equal to cat options. Then what we want to do is we're going to loop through all of our categories and add them to these cat options, okay? So we're going to say for each categories as category, then we're going to say cat options, and we're going to pass in our category ID, and we're going to make that equal to category name. All right, so this is going to build this out. Now, why is categories complaining? Categories. Did I spell it wrong? Why is this? I don't know. I don't think this is a problem. I think my editor is just being dumb. So now if I refresh here, let's see status options. I called this the wrong thing. Oh, I did the categories, which we do need, but we also need our status options. So let's do that. Let's say this view status options, and this is going to be equal just to an array here, and we don't need to do anything too fancy here, but what we're going to do is just say private and public like that. Let's go back and refresh, and now we have this. You can choose private or public for the status. And then the next thing we can do very easily, now that we've done the work of getting the categories, is we can print out the categories. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy this line. No, I'm not, because I don't know the, apparently I don't know the shortcut command for this. So what we're going to do is just copy and paste this line down, and we just need to change a couple things. So crap, I went to the wrong file. I'm stupid. Okay, we don't want to go there. We want to go to the view, and we're going to copy down this select block, because our next select is all the exact same things except for the name here is going to be category. We'll set this to category. What was that? Set the name to category ID actually, and then category ID for the default value there, or for the value. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pass, instead of status options, we're going to pass cat options. Did I call that cat options? I called that category options. Okay, thought I was being lazy for a second. So category options, there we go. So now if I go back and refresh, we have category and it's set to uncategorized. But now we have all of our categories that we've created in this drop down. So now this select box is dynamically built. Okay, so we got these three fields here. The next field that we want is, let's go ahead and set up, we need a text area. So we'll add the text area here. And we're going to do form helpers, text area. We're going to do article body as a label. And then we're going to do body as the ID and name. And then what we're going to do is HTML entity decode this article body. And we're going to do that. I'll explain that a little later, but we're going to be using a wysiwyg editor here. So it's going to actually have HTML there, possibly. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pass in some attributes and this errors. All right, and so for the attributes, we're going to give this a class a form control, and then we're going to give the wrapper class a class of form group. Oops, we need quotes there. So form group, and then also call medium 12. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that now. Oh, and we don't have the text here, so we got to build that. Dang it. So go to core and form helpers. And then what I'd like for you to do here, let me see if there's a way to shortcut this at all. Yeah, I think what we can do is just copy the whole input method, and down here we'll go underneath, let's go underneath the check, we'll paste that, and then instead of text blocks, let's rename this to text area, and then for our input, we just need to change this input to a text area. And then instead of having opening and closing, self-closing tag here, we will do a closing text area tag. And then in the middle here, we're going to do our string literal, and this will be value. So I think array key exists. I think that's all we need to do. So let me save that now and go back and refresh. And yep, now we have an article body here that we can set the height on. Good to go. One thing we may want to consider is setting some sort of default height on this. So I didn't do that in my original go with this, but let's try it. Let's go to the article, and I think what we can do is here in this, here we can do, I think we can add rows 5, something like that. Yeah, let's try 15. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. We could do whatever after that, but for now, let's go ahead now and add our. We want to go down here after this div, and we're going to add a new div of text right. And in here, we're going to add 2 buttons. We're going to do an A with a class of button and button secondary. And for the href, we're going to go ahead and echo out our root. And then we're going to go to the admin articles. So if they cancel, we'll just take them back there. And then for the text here, we're just going to put cancel. The next thing that we're going to do is let's add an input. And we'll give this input a class equal to button primary. And then we'll give it a value equal to save. And then let's give it a type equal to submit. And then we'll close that tag up. And let's go back and refresh. And now we should have a couple buttons here. So I think that's good for the form for right now, because we're going to have to add some file upload stuff. We're going to do that in the next video. Let's just get this working. If I hit save, nothing will happen because we didn't actually handle our form submission here in the article. And so let's go back there and try to handle that real quick. We'll end up adding to this, but for now it should be pretty good. Let's add this below all this category stuff here, and we're gonna do an if statement. And what we're gonna do is say if this request is post, then we'll do this stuff. And the first thing that we always have to do here is our session cross-site request forgery check to make sure that everything's on the up and up there. And then we're just going to start setting this stuff up. So article user ID is going to be equal to this current user ID. And then we're going to say article title is going to be equal to this article. Oh, I'm sorry. This request get title article body is going to be equal to this request get body article status this request get status, and one more article. I said statute here, that won't work. So then article category ID is equal to this request get category ID. The next thing that we're going to do is we are going to let's do if article save, then we are going to do the session message, and we'll say you know what, let's get a little fancy here. Let's add article title saved, and then we're going to pass that a type of success, and then we'll do our router redirect, and we're going to redirect them to admin articles. All right, so that should be enough to get started here. So let's go back now and try to save this. And it tells us that the title and the body is required, so we know that our model validation is working. So let's add this. So say brand new article. You know what? Let's actually give this a title of Catan. Give it a category of board games, and then Catan is an awesome entry level board game, and we'll hit save. And now it takes us back to our articles, and it tells us that we saved it. Now we didn't build out our table yet, which will be pretty. We'll do that in a moment. So we know that this form is working. Let's go and check our database now and see what we got. So we got a new row here. So our timestamps are filled out. That's good. The user ID was 7. Image is null for now. We have private and category ID of 2. Perfect. That's exactly what I want to see. I'm going to delete my other article that's in the database here. And yeah, let me see how much time we've been at this. So we're at 35 minutes now. I think what we're going to do is, you know what, let's work a little bit more on the form. So let's go back to article. And let's just test this. Let's go to, this is ID 13 for me. So I'm going to put 13 in here, and it should populate this with our properties, which it does. All right, so that's a good news. But I want to have a wysiwyg editor here. So what we're going to do is hop on over and just search for CK editor, and click on CK editor 5. And let's click. Let's see. Let me find the best way to do this here. Documentation. I thought there was a quick start. Yeah, let's go to the quick start. All right, so now what we're going to do is add some of this information into our document. So go ahead and copy this line here that has the editor here. This will load it in. Go to your, let's go to the here. And in our head up here, we haven't added anything here. I'm going to put a space here just to separate this. What we're going to do here is just go ahead and paste that script tag. Then what we're going to do is we're going to grab this other one, and this will actually call the create method. I'm thinking about, yeah, let's just add it up here in the head. And this query selector right here where it says editor, we just need to change that from editor to body, because it's going to grab this one here. Now, the problem is that this isn't really going to run. This isn't going to be loaded by the time this runs. So what we're going to do is let's actually do a window.add event listener. And we want to add an event listener to load. And then we're going to do an anonymous function here. So I know you guys haven't learned this, so just kind of follow along here. So we're adding this right here. And then what we're going to do is take this whole class editor here, and we're going to move it inside of there like that. Okay? Then what's going to happen is if we go back to our page and refresh, hopefully, yep, we can see that this editor now has a wysiwyg editor, and it grows with us. So now we can do things like copy this, we can make it bold, we could do a few other things here, but I'm not going to do too much right now. I just wanted to, let's see, what did I do originally here? We need to add a couple styles up here in the head as well. So underneath this script tag, let's do some styles. And let's just do the .ck-editor underscore underscore editable underscore inline. And we're going to give this a min height of 400 pixels. So if we go back now and refresh, you can see that this is now 400 pixels by default, so it's not all collapsed. And then the next thing is we need our error messages to show up correctly. In order to do that, we're going to add another selector here. We're going to say is invalid plus .ck editor, and then we're going to look for ck.ck editor underscore main and then inside of that we're going to look for our .ck editor underscore editable, and then we're going to use the not selector and say not ck focused. Alright, and if that's the case, we're going to add our border color to be crimson. That, let's go ahead and refresh, and then in the URL I'm going to switch that 13 to new, and then I'm going to hit save, and now you can see that this body is required will highlight that border. So that's what that little bit of text was doing right there. Okay, you could do a lot of editing to this wysiwyg editor, but I'll leave that for you to discover in the CK editor documentation. For now, we're just going to leave it as the default editor for the purposes of this project. One, because we haven't learned JavaScript yet, and two, because it's outside of the scope of this project to try to mess with this, which CK editor is great and you can do a lot of customizations, but I don't want to spend too much time doing that. So let's just create a new article and make sure this works. And I'm going to type isofarian guard, and this will be a categorization of board game. I'm going to put I can't wait for this game to be released. Thank you, Jules. Jules is my son, and he pre-ordered this game for me. I was super excited about it. So I'm gonna go back to article, and we'll say new. And so now we have our wysiwyg editor here. So that's pretty cool. You could change to some headings, and then back to paragraphs. So you can see just a little bit of stuff you could do. You could do some bullet points and all of that. So this creates HTML that it'll save in the database. So now if we go to our database, and I'm going to refresh here, you can see here that inside of here we have HTML entities run on this. So our entities in quotes have been encoded, and so that's a safe way to store it in a database. So the reason that, if we go back, my ID there's 14. So if I change this to 14, so instead of new, we'll put in 14, you can see that this loads and looks correctly without that weird stuff. And that is because in our article value right here, we ran this HTML entity decode, and that's a PHP function that decodes those after it comes in here. All right. So I think the video has kind of gone a little bit long, and I wanted to do all the CRUD operations for the articles, but I'll be satisfied with this. In the next video, I think what we'll do is continue on with our form by adding the photo upload, the featured image upload right here. So we'll do file uploads in the next video, and then after that we'll do another video to finish up the rest of the CRUD operations for articles. And after that we'll be done with our entire author portal, and then we can start working on the front end to actually display these articles. So I hope you're enjoying this. If you are, please comment, like, subscribe. You guys can help me out by becoming a patron on my Patreon /freeskills. If you want some merch, you can go to my freeskills.life. All right, so let's go ahead and save this to GitHub here. So I'm going to do a git status, and we'll do git add, git commit. We have a commit message here of article form started. I'll do a git push, and then I'm going to do a git checkout main and git merge v32 and push that up. All right, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.